Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Many thanks for joining us today on this panel titled PharmaLedger, a digital trust healthcare ecosystem. Today we're going to get multiple perspectives from a business, legal, governance and technology standpoint. My name is Dr. Hirkirit Virdee. I co-lead the work package responsible for the culture and adoption of blockchain technology within the industry. I previously worked as a doctor and before that a pharmacist, and I have an interest in digital health, distributed ledger technologies and decentralization. So now we're going to kind of hand over to the panelists and we're going to get a quick intro from each panelist.
I will start. I thought you make it shorter, but anyway. So my name is Marco Cuomo. I'm working for Novartis. I'm an IT guy, so an architect, and in PharmaLedger I'm the co-lead of the platform.
Hi, my name is James Gannon. I am the Vice President of Quality, Trust and Safety for the PharmaLedger Association.
I'm Paolo Migliari. I'm working for MSD. I'm coming from the IT, and in PharmaLedger I led the use cases selection. Okay.
Hi, I'm Lukas Osterheider. I'm part of the Bayer team in the PharmaLedger consortium, and I'm in crypto since 2013, and now since 1.5 years also working for the PharmaLedger project, and they are the IT implementation lead for Bayer.
Okay, so that's a quick intro from everyone. So my first question is to Paolo. Could you give a recap of why the consortium was established? Where we are in terms of project outputs in terms of PharmaLedger today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very important really to explain that, because I mean, I was talking with the guys outside and they're very surprised that we as pharmaceutical company, we are using blockchain technology, okay? Yeah. So they were really astonished to do that. So starting from the very beginning, okay, PharmaLedger is a initiative between, it's a private and public initiative between pharmaceutical company and the European community, okay? It's a 3-year project, okay, bringing together 29 partners, okay? 29 partners between pharmaceutical company, institution, I would say research university, patient association, hospital, so the real player of the healthcare, okay? With the 22 million budget, okay, that is coming to the end, because we started almost 3 years ago and we are going to finish in 2022. The aim of the project is really to create a platform which gives the patient, okay, to improve, okay, and really to improve the patient experience at the end of the day. And we are using the blockchain technology not just for building the platform, but also building the app that the patient can use in order to improve his experience, okay. Just to give you an example, okay, just on the supply chain, is an end-to-end project. Is an end-to-end flow of information and also things that where the patient is at the end of our supply chain. Okay, until yesterday the patient was not included in the supply chain. Now we are thinking also to add the patient at the end of our supply chain. So it starts from the ingredient and goes to finish to the patient. Okay. Yeah. And we have been very pragmatic since the beginning, and we have been selected something of from 10 use cases. We have been selected something of 9 that we are going to implement, divided in 3 domains, okay? The supply chain, of course, as you do before, and we have also the clinical trial, and the patient experience, so the patient data, in which the patient can really share the data with whoever they want, knowing what they are using through the trusted environment, okay?
Perfect, that's awesome. So as Paolo mentioned, the first year of the project was which business cases showed the most value proposition for blockchain technology for patients. So the first year focused on, design and foundations. The second year was about building, so development and deployment. And now we're halfway through the last year of the project, so we've got about 7 months left. And the narrative for this year is, sustainability and validation of the project once it finishes at the end of this year. So again, PharmaLedger's initial vision was to develop a widely trusted platform for the adoption and innovation of blockchain-enabled patient-centric solutions. That was our initial, vision. And now we've transitioned to what we're calling PharmaLedger being a digital trust ecosystem. So, the next question is for Marco. Could you break down what a digital trust ecosystem is for us, and why is PharmaLedger transitioning from blockchain-enabled healthcare to a healthcare digital trust ecosystem?
Yeah, when we started a couple of years ago, we had in mind to build the infrastructure for the healthcare environment or healthcare system. So we wanted to build, first we said, let's build a blockchain infrastructure for the healthcare industry, because we see a lot of use cases, and every use case has first to build the infrastructure, which is a hurdle for the use case. So we said, let's build with this project the infrastructure so that future use cases can just jump on it. And then we created the term blockchain-enabled healthcare, but we realized very quickly this is not enough. It's not about infrastructure, it's not about the blockchain technology itself. We need to build the ecosystem around it. How do we govern it? How we bring people to this ecosystem? How can we make it trustful in a, let's say, trustless environment? So then we realized what we are really building is a digital trust ecosystem, which the backbone is a blockchain technology or a ledger-based technology. So that is what we really wanted to build. But we also realized just a platform there without use cases makes no sense. So we need the use cases. So that was Paolo mentioned before. We need a couple of use cases to showcase what is the potential. But what we really want in the future is that we have this infrastructure, and that any new use case which someone comes up can just jump on it and has not to focus how to build the blockchain stuff, how to build the governance around it, blah, blah, blah. No, can just go and saying, here, I have a use case, I can jump in that PharmaLedger, and I have already an ecosystem. I have the pharma companies, I have governance, I know where to go, and can quickly build something. That's the idea. So we are at the very beginning now, but this is what we envision with the digital trust ecosystem for the healthcare industry, and we can also see other industries doing something similar.
Perfect, thank you. So as Paolo mentioned, the kind of three domains within PharmaLedger are clinical trials, healthcare data, and supply chain. And we have 8 use cases, and the most advanced use case is electronic product information. And this is essentially a patient-centric, digitized application of the paper information leaflet that's inserted into the medication box. And this is the most advanced use case, but there's 7 more use cases. So, matching patients to having a blockchain-based matching utility service for recruitment of patients into decentralized clinical trials, along with anti-counterfeiting features. So how do I know I've got a genuine product? What is the provenance of my product? Where has it come from? And then we look into the supply chain use cases, which is finished goods traceability and clinical supply chain. The other use cases are related, I guess, to clinical trials specifically in terms of remote trial management, so electronic consent. So normally, when a patient wants to enroll on a clinical trial, they have to fill out a lot of paperwork to give their consent to participate in the trial. We're looking at digitizing that consent and sharing it among all the players within the clinical trial kind of ecosystem. And the other use cases are to do with interoperability, so using the Internet of Things, as well as personalized medicine. So personalized wearables, using that data and transacting with that data through a decentralized clinical trial. So those are our use cases. It's a plethora of different use cases, but the most advanced one is electronic product information. And we've the team at PharmaLedger, we've managed to stand up 7 nodes in different pharmaceutical companies. So Marco, could you kind of please explain how the platform architecture has been structured and built to form this network for EPI? Sorry, this is a bit tricky. We're supposed to have a picture up here, but they can't find the slide. So good luck.
Thank you. What should I do now? No, I got it. I got it. So when we started with PharmaLedger, we said we cannot define the blockchain technology. Let's say the people are always asking, what are you using for PharmaLedger? Hyperledger or this, or Hyperledger Fabric or this or that. We said that can be not the approach that we define in 2019 or 20 this is the blockchain technology, we do it, let's say, permissioned or whatever. So we say we need something more flexible. So what we say is every use case, so we call it now products or electronic product information, can come with their own blockchain technology. That can be Hyperledger Fabric, that can be Quorum, that can be whatever you like. It can be a public, a hybrid, a permissioned or private one. It doesn't matter for us. Important is we have built a middleware layer between it. We call that OpenDSU. DSU stands for Data Sharing Units. In enterprise world, it's all about data. And we put that middleware layer between basically the blockchain technology or the blockchain network and the application on top of it. So you can imagine the colors would be, if you see the picture, picture would be here. Yellow is the blockchain part. The green part is the middleware layer. It's also a framework for developers. So for the developers, it's easy then to work with the blockchain because we abstract the blockchain technology. It's basically really read, write data. And on top of it, in a blue color, would be the application, the normal technology stack you use for your web application, mobile app, whatever it is. So we built basically from the beginning, we say we want to be agnostic to the blockchain technology. The only thing we use is this, what we call OpenDSU, this middleware layer, also framework for the developers. That gives a lot of freedom, so we can basically change anytime the underlying technology and the application has nothing to be changed. And this is also gives us the freedom in the future. If the better, new, faster, whatever blockchain comes around the corner, we can replace that without interrupting basically the business for the use cases which they're up to come. But that's the idea behind it. So this is our layered architecture.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for that breakdown. My next question is for Lukas. Hi, Lukas. You work as a blockchain architect for Bayer.
Exactly.
And you've been involved or focusing on the electronic product information and finished goods traceability use cases. Could you describe some of the, I guess, greatest challenges and opportunities you've had during this implementation?
Yes, for sure. So yeah, I've joined the whole PharmaLedger project about 1.5 years ago. Before I've been already working at Bayer as an, I would say cloud architect or IT project manager for about 7 years. But personally, I've been very interested in crypto, as said earlier, since 2013. So the crypto world, as you all know, is developing quite fast. And then I came for the first time, also from a corporate job perspective, into the whole blockchain topic, into PharmaLedger. And I got to know the OpenDSU architecture, and I thought, okay, that makes sense. Let's go and implement it. And the first steps actually were quite fast. So everyone who has set up a blockchain node knows if the code is out there, we are currently using Go Quorum. If the code is out there, you can set up a blockchain node quite fast, and you can have the first results quite fast. But then I know why the project timeframe actually, still had 2 years, as time to actually implement all of it, because then the first challenges started. So as you know, and as said, in crypto everything develops quite fast, and when it comes to corporate IT landscapes, that's unfortunately not always the case, or not that often the case, I would say. So when we started implementing PharmaLedger at Bayer, the first blockchain node has been set up quite fast, but then you are discussing something like, okay, we don't want to have a sandbox environment just for Bayer, but we really would like to have a decentralized environment together with Novartis, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, and many other companies. So the first question is then, okay, how is everyone going to deploy their blockchain node? How can we interconnect them? So that's not a public network that you can just join, but you have to ramp up a completely new network, because we are currently just a private blockchain network. And then you come to a lot of questions around deployment, around of how to do change processes, how do we make any blockchain upgrade, how do we make upgrades to the software itself. That really took a lot of time because of all those difficult processes that corporates unfortunately have internally, and due to the diverse IT landscapes, I would say. And even if you have a running network, it's still not connected to all the other processes that we have in our corporate world. So every company has an ERP system like SAP. Every company has to integrate it, but not every SAP system, even if all the companies are using SAP, is the same SAP system. There's so much customized that it takes a very long time until you really bring up a full IT ecosystem that really works and can support all those those challenges. But on the other side, to also mention this, from an opportunity perspective, I found it quite amazing to work together with all the other companies to get to know about their IT landscape, about their challenges. Everyone has a different cloud architecture, for example. Everyone is using different public clouds, but they also have completely different approaches when it comes to security, GXP regulation, when we are talking about pharma. And
there seems to be no uniformity at all, where you think there would be some sort of level playing field for everyone to kind of operate in. So thanks for that. Have you got any more to add, or we're good? We're good.
I can just encourage everyone who's not working in blockchain yet, if you're working completely other industry, a blockchain project, from my perspective, also just makes sense to talk to other companies, get to know their environment better, and to work on a joint goal. And that's kind of amazing.
Awesome, thank you. So, as mentioned, we're in the final year of the PharmaLedger project. This is all about sustainability and validation of the project outputs at the end of this year. And I'm pleased to announce that the PharmaLedger Association has been formed, which is a non-for-profit legal entity that will validate the products from the PharmaLedger Association. And James is working as the VP of Quality, Trust and Safety at the PharmaLedger Association. So I guess, James, could you kind of break down what is the mission and vision of the PLA? What do we expect in terms of short and long-term goals going forward?
Yep. So the goal with the PLA is, as Paolo and others have talked about, we're at the end of this 3-year research phase, let's call it, where we've come up with an architecture, we've come up with some products. We don't have anything out in the market right now, okay? And the big challenge from a healthcare industry point of view, even bigger than just pharma, is we're heavily regulated. We're probably one of the most regulated industries out there. So we have a lot of obligations from a regulatory point of view on how we qualify the system, how you test it, how you deploy it in a secure and controlled manner, lots of operating procedures around these things. So we very quickly realized about 18 months ago, when I joined the project, looking at it from a regulatory and compliance point of view, that we needed an entity that would sit in the middle as a neutral, trusted venue that would essentially perform that regulatory action and then act as a pseudo vendor almost, but with no cost involved, to all of the pharmaceutical companies. So this way we gain the trust and regulatory compliance over the software and over the platform, but without having any centralized authority piece being put in place, because all we do at the PharmaLedger Association is we'll perform the regulatory validation, and then we will hand those containers, package binaries, etc., over to the pharmaceutical companies to run under their quality management systems and their controls. So really, the goal of the PLA is we're trying to create this venue, not just for, we will obviously start with the existing use cases that we have, but I can't stress enough, similar to what Lukas was saying, I've been doing pharma and emerging tech in pharma for about 14 years now. This is the first time that I've really seen the whole industry come together. Not just the pharma companies. We have patient organizations, we have research universities, all with a really singular goal here. And to get everybody around the table in that way and thinking and working in the same way, we see a huge opportunity with the PLA. We're building the bylaws at the moment, setting out the principles of how we want to operate it. And we want it to be a venue for decentralized technology, for open source platforms. The example I always give is, if we look at the fintech industry, and if you look at open source fintech projects out there, approximately 2,000 of them, give or take. Do you want to know how many there are in pharma? There's one. So we have this whole area that we're able to expand into if we have this kind of trusted venue for collaboration. And really that's what we want the PLA to be, is where all stakeholders that are interested in the healthcare ecosystem can come together and collaborate on new technologies. And that will include patients. You know, we will obviously have the more corporate players coming in and providing the funding and stuff like that. The PLA is a not-for-profit registered in Switzerland. You know, we're not here to launch a coin. We're not here to make money out of it. It's going to be just our operating costs. But we want to bring together a venue where a patient can come along, and we're building a new piece of tech that's patient-facing. They're going to be able to sit down and give their input into it. So that we're kind of flipping the narrative a bit, rather than, you know, big pharma giving these apps to patients and hoping that it goes well. We want to actually build these things bottom up to be very patient-centric. And we've seen a lot of that with the EPI app. You know, we've entirely revamped our UI UX around that based on direct patient feedback. You know, we have a great relationship engagement with the European Patients Forum, and they've given us actual patient groups for us to trial the app with. And we've had, you know, real-world patients looking at going, oh no, that just doesn't work at all for us. But then we're actually able to reincorporate that advice back into the product. And really we want this to be something scalable. It needs to be sustainable. You know, this is not something that, given we're a not-for-profit, we will have operating costs, and we need to make sure we cover those operating costs. But we don't have a goal of, you know, we don't need to pay back venture capitalists. We don't have to have huge money around this. It's really about building that ecosystem piece. So it's a really exciting time, and, you know, one of the next steps obviously will be that we'll open this up next year for membership, and, you know, we're going to have an innovation lab where you might be able to, you know, bring your ideas into the PLA. These are all still things that we're working out, but we really want, you know, exactly the type of folks that show up to a conference like this to be able to get involved in a really concrete manner.
And, you know, like, this is not like the usual kind of, I guess, big play with big pharma. Like, who will be able to join the association? Is this for, you know, little fish as well as big fish?
Yeah, so like one of the things that we've looked at is from a legal entity point of view. So like if you look at corporate members, let's call them, we want a really scaled model where that if you're a small development company, for example, in healthcare, and you only have 10 employees, we need to obviously price our membership fees very reasonably so that you're able to join. It's not a big hurdle for them. But at the same big pharma companies like myself, I work for Novartis as my normal day job, you know, MSD, Bayer, that they're able to have almost like a patronage, where they'll bring together much larger membership fees to run the core operations. And then particularly in the lab that I was speaking about, you know, that's where the ground up kind of blank piece of paper innovation is going to happen. So that's where we want to be able to bring individuals in. You know, so if you're an individual open source developer, you're an individual patient, or you have a piece of expertise that you can bring to the table, you know, we'll have projects there that will just be open for anybody to join. No membership fees, no requirement to pass a certain bar or anything else. So it'll be really kind of multi-stakeholder and open. So
yeah, thanks for covering that. So if an entity joins the PLA or the PharmaLedger Association, I guess what they're going to get is a validated product for electronic product information that can be used in both a patient and an industry population. Could you talk about potential kind of business models we've got for the first year for the association?
Yeah, so like one of the big things will be that, you know, in order to meet that regulatory compliance piece, when you come in as a formal member, you know, a corporate member of the association, you'll get this validated product, so validated from a regulatory point of view, something that will pass FDA scrutiny. And that's going to be the big payback for your membership fees there. So like that's how we're going to really drive the initial membership fee revenue to cover our core operations. And then obviously in the future we'll expand out into the new use cases and, you know, bring up new projects. And the hope is that as we start expanding, that essentially we become the long tail of the industry from a technology point of view, because, you know, particularly looking at smaller pharma companies, so not every pharma company has 150,000 employees like Novartis. There's plenty out there with 100, 200 employees. So if you're bringing a new drug to market, like being able to adopt a PharmaLedger solution and not have to worry about that, you know, you are doing it out of the box as something that you just get along with your membership fees. It's not something we're going to charge directly for. That we hope will really accelerate the long tail of adoption in the industry. And also then being able to work with the other ecosystem players that are there, you know, the not-for-profits, the public healthcare facilities, the hospitals, doctors, patients. You know, that's, again, it's something that is very heavy and hard to do when you're in industry. So again, having this neutral venue to do that is something that we hope will really speed up adoption over time.
Thank you, James. So the PharmaLedger Association has been formed. We're awaiting a second endorsement, but a first endorsement has been done successfully within the existing consortium at PharmaLedger. So now we finally have a legal entity to kind of look into the future, but there's still work that needs to happen with the electronic product information use case. So Paolo, could you give us, I guess, some foresight into the future? We've worked with SAPI, which is the Singapore Associations of Pharmaceutical Industries, to run a proof of concept there. Could you maybe talk about some of the key learnings and some of the future markets that we've got planned?
Yeah, as I was saying before, okay, EPI is one of the, starting from the 100 use cases that we have selected, we have then went to do 8, okay, now I would say we selected one to be able to be implemented, okay. We selected the electronic information, is the one that is the piece of paper that you may find, okay, in the product that most of the time you don't read, okay. So, but it's very important. It's very regulated, okay. There is a lot of complexity behind that, okay. So, but we have chosen this use case because it's really the one that is common to all the pharmaceutical company that interact directly with the patient. That you can open a direct channel with the patient, okay, and really be able to really interact with him, okay, with them. So the idea is really. First of all, starting on the side that, PharmaLedger is a European project, but all pharmaceutical companies are global, okay? So we started from, do mainly two pilots. One is in Singapore, the other one will be in Belgium, by the way, because Belgium there is also the European community there. It could help us to really interact with them, okay? So the first thing was really, as we were saying, okay, PharmaLedger has to leverage the patient. So the first interaction we have, we really talking with the patient and try to understand how you want to do that, okay? So how are you able to interact with the electronic system? What is the value for you for the paper, okay? So we are really learning from them, okay, and try to really do a process from the bottom, okay, and really prepare both, okay? The user experience for that should be completely different and create a channel with them, okay? So now we have finished the first, let's say, POC more than a pilot in Singapore. Now we are doing something that is really more deeper in the European. We are working with the Canada institution, okay, authorities, in order to understand how to work together in order to make this happen, okay. And the next step that we are going to do here is really try to understand how to help the Ukrainian refugees, okay, because you should think that they are all spread around Europe, okay. Sometimes they got medicine, but they cannot read what they are doing. So the approach that we are trying to understand is how to really be able to interact with them in order that they can get their leaflet, even if the product is, is a Poland product, is whatever, okay. So you can really give them the right information with the right languages, okay? So it's really something that we are trying to understand. It should be open, and this will all help just not to reduce, give the right patient the right information. The next step will be maybe you need to really get not all the leaflet, but according to your pathology, you can really get just what you need, and we can really take advantage of what you are reading in order to personalize your e-leaflet, okay? Even better, okay? So you are really just at the beginning, starting to think how to interact. And again, it's not a problem of technology, it's a problem of lack of understanding for the institution. We are really trying to understand how interact with the European community, that for us, for them, really go electronic means to have a PDF, okay? So that, yes, it's electronic, but you can really get even more. Oh, that is the thing. So the approach that you are really is really step by step. And again, it's not the technology that's creating the problem, but it's also to educate. There is a lack of understanding of the technology in our institution that we need really to educate.
Thank you, Paolo. And I guess the ethos for PharmaLedger and the PharmaLedger Association is that we want to be, we're open, we're going to be open source, we want to be inclusive. We want to have a neutral playground for pharma to kind of come together. And so I guess this is to all the panelists from like a business, legal, technology, technical standpoint. What do you foresee as some of the, I guess, biggest challenges going forward for the PharmaLedger Association? from Marco,
I can
James?
start.
Yeah, you want to start? Okay,
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah, from a challenge and also opportunity perspective, maybe starting with the challenges, as already said earlier, currently, or in the last 1 year, we have struggled a bit with having all the deployment processes and everything in place to actually establish the network. The next step is now, as also James said, to get everything of that in a compliant, regulated environment. And then we really need stable operations, I would say, and good change management, so that we can really deliver all the nice services that we have for our patients, and that we can really deliver them in a very good quality. And another point I would like to point out here that is a challenge but also a very big opportunity is a topic about integration. So we are already seeing now that there are also other blockchain projects being established within the pharma industry, maybe not always by pharma manufacturers, but maybe by wholesalers or other suppliers. And in the future, for sure, we build an open network, but we have really to ensure that we integrate and that we can integrate with all these different other networks. So in crypto, it's currently a big topic, talking about blockchain bridges. That will be also a big topic for us, I think, in the upcoming months and years, but also a big opportunity.
Cool, thank you, Lukas. Paolo?
How much with time we have?
I don't know.
To do all the challenges, because there is a lot of time. Okay, there is a lot of challenges that I see. Starting from the pragmatic point of view, I will say the fund. Okay, so at the end of 2022, we are going to finish our 22 million budget. Okay, and now our approach will become a global approach. Okay, using the blockchain. At the moment, I mean, the pharmaceutical company doesn't see the blockchain as an investment and something that can really get money, okay? So that will be the first really approach, okay? How we can really build in order to have all the partner of the PharmaLedger Association really find the right value in order to invest with this, okay? So that is very pragmatic approach, okay? The second one is we need to really learn to work together, okay? Because I mean, the pharmaceutical company, they are quite big. Okay, so you think of Pfizer, MSD, Novartis, Bayer, okay? So really working together in the last 3 years has been very challenging, okay? So now we are really working together, but I mean, it's still something that, and I'll say the last one, and I'll stop because otherwise we can really go ahead for okay. I say, really, the technology is not a problem, okay? You will find always a solution using the technology, always, okay? Is the environment that need to really understand what we are going to do and help us to grow, okay? So, sorry, the last one, okay. The thing is that really, and also be able to take on board both big guys like pharmaceutical company or maybe big guys as wholesalers, but also small technology company, okay, that can contribute to us to really grow and always maintain new approach, okay? Because that is something that really it becomes difficult. Okay?
Thank you. James?
So I'm going to do some audience participation. So who here has ever worked for a large company, over 1,000 people? Okay, I would say 50% of the audience. Who here has ever worked for a regulated company? So finance, nuclear energy, okay. But a third, okay? So if I told you that when we're doing this through the association, what we're actually doing is we're doing something brand new that our regulators have never seen. Okay, so globally, that's all of our regulators. We have to educate and convince that, no, this is viable and it works. And most of our companies are competitors. Again, try and think about having to coordinate amongst all of your competitors in an antitrust safe manner, how we are going to build something together that actually benefits us all and patients. That is just a huge cultural challenge. Yeah. And that's the hardest piece to overcome. And it is actually also the reason that I'm most optimistic about PharmaLedger, because we've built something already. If we could finish the regulatory piece tomorrow, we could launch. And just the fact that we've got to that point, and we've actually built something collaboratively between 12 major pharma companies, research universities, patients, that's our biggest challenge and our biggest success to date. So that's why I'm hopeful, and that's why I'm very committed to it.
Thanks, James. Marco?
What a surprise. So the project, the PharmaLedger Consortium, ends by end of this year. So that means we have to look for sustainability. This is the PharmaLedger Association. but all pharma companies need to implement the nodes. So in 2018, we were able to convince, let's say, 12 pharma companies to invest, let's say, 10 million in creating something which just was labeled blockchain-enabled healthcare, and we do something there. And so maybe there was a good time in 2018 to do that, so it worked. Now we have the same issue or the same situation where we have to convince again pharma companies to invest in a project, in this case more concrete, the electronic product information, to make it sustainable for the future. So, and here I see a little bit our challenge. We have to convince again pharma companies to invest in something, in a project, in an internal project for them, a couple of millions, not much, I mean, compared to the size. And also something like they not get immediately the money back for that. It's something, yeah, it's blockchain. It takes a couple of years till you really get the, let's say, the value back for that. So this is what I see a little bit as a challenge in the future, to again convince the pharma companies to invest in something which they not really understand in all details. And another thing, Paolo, you forgot to mention the Ukraine stuff. I mean, there's always...
You did.
Oh, did? Okay, so I was sleeping.
Where you were? Okay, you were here. Okay.
That's the break. But we always, when we go along, we always find new challenges coming surprisingly around the corner, and we have to react on it, which then brings up a little bit from our path, which we then have again going back and making sure how we integrate that back in our thing. So we have always something coming around the corner which is surprising us, like the thing I missed, the Ukraine stuff.
Thank you, Marco. And I think one of the strongest things about PharmaLedger is, instead of each pharma company trying to push something, we really have a playing ground. We're all working together as one, and it's not for a commercial gain. This is for a public good. This is for patients. So that concludes our panel today. Do we have any questions at all? You want to take mine?
Yeah, thank you for this panel. So pharma works with tons and tons of technology vendors, and my question is, I don't hear anything of those vendors within this story. Is there a reason? So now it sounds like pharma is going to build their own tools.
This is maybe this was from the very beginning. We said it's not vendor driven, the whole thing. So we really wanted to make sure it's from the pharma driven. So we have no big vendor in it like SAP, Accenture. There's not there. It does not mean we reinvent everything, and it's not mean we don't work with one of them. But we have really said this is pharma driven. So we don't want a vendor in, let's say, the consortium. That was from the beginning. We want to very clear. We also worked with little startup companies to develop the things on top of it. We use existing technology, Quorum and other things, or Kubernetes and whatever you need. But from the beginning, we want to make sure that we are not, ecosystem.
Have any constraint with the big software vendor? Okay, that was our approach. Okay, to be really open software. That is.
And are you looking to, now that you went through a first phase and you got some POCs in place, to explore collaborations? And because I mean, there's so many different softwares available. Like, how will you tap into that or link to that?
So that's the beauty of our use case model, and the fact that we have the disintermediation between the middleware layer and the actual underlying blockchain that can sit on top of. So each project and each product that comes along can choose its own, because different products would have different needs. Some will need, rapid consolidation, and some might have a longer consolidation timeline, so that they will have the flexibility to choose what is best for their product.
That's why at the beginning I said the layered architecture is that the blockchain technology is, or we are agnostic to the technology, so we can pick whatever we like on that. It has not even, in theory, not even to be a blockchain technology, whatever the use case fits best.
If I may add something, is the approach of the application on top of this, let's say, backbone that we are building that can be also implemented by third party, taking advantage of the backbone that connect the different, stakeholder, that is, pharmaceutical company, patient, whatever. So that is our idea, okay? So in the future, this will become, I would say, it has to be safe because we are highly regulated, okay? So there will be really rule, but in theory, there is also the ability to create app and that are independent to our ecosystem, okay? That is the idea.
Yes, I have a question. The association will be open following when it opens to include other companies that are in the healthcare industry, getting in the healthcare industry, like Amazon and Google and Apple, that all are developing systems and apps to be part of the association and bring the technology in the association and see how it can work with what you guys have established?
Yep, so very much so. We're taking the same approach as we have with our technology to how we do membership at the association. Essentially, if you're a company that has a link to the healthcare ecosystem, we're not defining what that link is. That's up for the company to. You know, like Google is a great example. Everybody thinks Google is a search engine. Google is also a huge healthcare company, you know, with great healthcare tech. You know, so like we will be open to those, and they can come in at whichever level in our model that they wish, and you know that will be up to the company that wishes to join to define their level of participation. If they just want to come in and get a lower level and just observe, or if they want to come in a more strategic manner, they'll be able to do that as well.
And if I add some, the approach of the association, we really think big but start small, okay? So it means that when we start, the use cases, we are going to start with the electronic product information, okay? The governance need to really represent the ecosystem. So it means that when the way to the PharmaLedger will grow is adding new use cases, adding to the governance all the entities that are part of the ecosystem. Okay, so that will be something that grows in a way that is organic to the solution. So we are not going to take on board solution on part that are not part of the ecosystem, okay? That is the idea, okay? The idea is that one. At least at the beginning, we will see what happens, okay?
Yeah, the ethos is not to control the network. The ethos is to be decentralized and help govern the network. I guess that concludes our... Oh, we've got another 5 minutes or so. Oh, sorry, okay. Do we have any more questions in the audience at all? Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much for this very interesting session. So I work in the pharmaceutical industry myself.
Can you, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, so the use cases that you selected are grouped in 3 categories?
Correct, yes, supply chains, healthcare data, and clinical trials.
I was wondering whether you could elaborate a bit more on the clinical trial use cases or the approach that you're planning to take there.
Yeah, so one of the, I guess, problems with the existing consortium is because we didn't have a legal entity, when we wanted to run a proof of concept of a decentralized clinical trial, it was very difficult for us to operate in a clinical environment. So the use cases related to clinical trials are first about consent. So how do I know that patient is who they say they are? And right now, all of the data that's collected within a clinical trial, looking at all the different stakeholders within that ecosystem, it's completely siloed. It's not shared between all of the players. What we're doing is with, I guess, the blockchain architecture is having the ability to share that information with doctors, with physicians, with policy, with safety boards, and so forth. In terms of the other trial aspect is the use of personalized medicine and IoT. So given COVID, there was a huge shift from the standard clinical trial rationale to decentralized clinical trials. But essentially all that was taking patients away from the trial site and do it at home. So it really depends on what's the regulatory compliance of what the data is actually being captured on the device. So once that data is then captured, it then be able to be shared among all the participants, And knowing that you've got that consent, knowing the person has consented digitally, is probably one of the first steps to kind of overcome. So yeah, that's my kind of, is that kind of, hopefully that's kind of answered your question. But basically, now we have a legal entity, we will be able to take the validated electronic product information use case, potentially in the future, the e-consent or trial use case can mature and graduate and be qualified from the PharmaLedger Association. Once that happens, we can then use that application in a clinical or regulated hospital environment.
Hi there.
Hi.
How do you guys plan to market and scale the ecosystem across your target regions? Is that in the pipeline, or is that something that you're still working on, hiring the staff, or what's the plan there?
We have one big use case, which is the electronic product information, and this is something we want to go live or productive pilot first in, let's say Q1 next year.
Pressure's on.
We had Q4, but now it's Q1 next year. And we start with some markets like Belgium, Canada, and Singapore. And there are more waiting. There are other 20. So our idea is then to go step by step in the different markets and see how that develops. We have also to learn how to operate this in a productive environment, because it's blockchain technology. It's not that it's everything new for us, but still we have to learn how we manage that in an ecosystem. It's not one pharma company is responsible for everything, or the PharmaLedger Association is not responsible for everything. We just deliver the qualified product, but then the pharma companies together are responsible for the network. So how do we manage that all? How do we monitor that? How we make sure the operation? So we go country by country out there, and of course I think with the time we will go more and more parallel in more countries, but that's a step-by-step approach.
And again, it is a balance between to be ready and also the openness of the institution of different market that will adopt it. Okay, in Singapore they are very open. Okay, in Europe, when this happens, there are people that say it will be happening in 5 years. Okay, and so we are really cherry picking, okay, the different market according to where we are ready and when the institutions are ready to open to that, okay. Japanese market is already doing that, okay, and so that is really a combination. But in theory, if our plan will go, we are going to really to implement that in 42 countries in the next 2-3 years, okay.
Yeah, and like the goal, let's say, is that essentially it grows organically. Because, you know, really what we're focusing on this year is building that strong corporate governance, strong regulatory compliance, so that we can get a product into the market. And certainly I think, you know, if we manage to successfully launch that product and it works well, like the organic growth we'll see out of that, you know, and in terms of the adoption we'll see and new companies wanting to get onto that train that's started, you know, I think we'll see organic growth then. And then essentially with the model that we have of having this lab for the more innovative ideas, you know, we'll have new stakeholders on board then who can suggest new ideas, who can then turn those into projects, which will then become products. So it almost becomes a flywheel effect internally.
Okay, so I think that concludes our panel discussion and Q&A. So thank you very much. Thanks to the panelists, and thank you to all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.